I've been getting this question a lot in all of my socials, and it's how can I get a job in the industry? So, a little bit of background about myself. I'm Anwar Mohammed. I'm currently a 3D artist working as a technical account manager at Epic Games. I've been in the industry for about 15 years now, and I've also been teaching for just as long, so about 15 years. I have helped countless students get jobs and get into the industry, as well as starting a mentorship program to help people learn 3D art and get a career in it. So today I wanted to share just kind of some of my advice and what's worked well over the years. Now, this is not to say that if you follow all of these steps 100%, you're going to get into the industry or you're going to get a job within a month. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just sharing what advice has worked for me, what has worked for my students, and I'm hoping to just share that knowledge. So let's jump right into it, right? How do we get employed within the 3D art industry? Now, this applies to anybody that is going to school, going to a traditional like 4-year college or a program or a course or a 2-year, it doesn't matter. The number one thing, which should be no surprise at this point, is you want to build a strong portfolio. Your portfolio is the single greatest factor into getting a job. And if you don't have a strong portfolio, studios, art leads, directors, supervisors, recruiters will not pay you any mind whatsoever. You could have all the accolades, you could have all of the degrees, accreditations, and whatnot, but if you can't exemplify actual 3D art skills that they're looking for, you will not be considered for the role. So moving on, here are some tips to help build a strong portfolio. Number one is just show your best work, right? I've seen people, and I've done portfolio review after portfolio review, and I've seen people come and show me, 8, 10, 12, 15 pieces of work, right? Now, the thing is, they're most of the time students coming from a program and they're excited to show the work that they've done through the program. However, your portfolio is the culmination of your best work, meaning studios don't want to see what you've learned in your courses. They want to see what you are good at. And the way to do that is showing your best work. So if you have 10 or so pieces of work, take that and cut it down to 5. And then take that and cut it down to 3. And then make sure you get other people to give you feedback on that. Post it in Discord servers. Talk to professionals in the industry. Try to network and just showcase your portfolio and see what sticks out the most. Then make sure you tailor your portfolio to the job, right? So I have an example here on this Miro board, which, by the way, if you'd like access to this Miro board, you can get access by joining my mailing list on my website or being a Patreon supporter. I've actually been building kind of a series of boards that I've just been sharing to people that sign up to the course and Patreon. So just happy to share that knowledge, and it's completely free to join the mailing list. So it's not like it costs money. So if I click here on Rakan Kamash's video, he's done some talks and he has some fantastic work. And the thing is, he's worked at Blizzard, he's worked on Overwatch 2. And if you look through his portfolio, what I really love about people that post that work in industry and keep their older work is that you can kind of see the progression that they took in order to land those jobs. And here you can see these are fan art pieces that he created in order to get a job at Blizzard, right? So he's making sure to tailor his portfolio to companies like Blizzard, which is that low poly stylized look and feel. Now, because of that, you'd want to make sure that, okay, well, if you're trying to apply to a company like Blizzard or Riot Games or NetEase, you want to make sure that your portfolio has those examples. If you go for things that are hyper realistic, that is very impressive and looks good, but that is not the type of art that they create. So you want to make sure you tailor your portfolio to that job. In my example, I have a ton of hard surface, I have a lot of automotive stuff, but I wouldn't go apply to a bunch of character art roles or creature sculpture roles, right? You have to kind of work within a field, an industry that you are very proficient in. And then a big thing is studying the roles at the industry, right? So you're not only creating 3D models, you're not only using Blender, Max, Maya, Substance Painter, you really want to analyze the actual job posting and tailor your portfolio and your resume to those roles. Meaning if they use again, maybe a hand-painted aesthetic, you want to be able to exemplify in your portfolio that you have those hand-painted stylized look. If they're doing a lot of texture baking from high to low, you want to be able to exemplify that. If they're doing a lot of ZBrush work for environment art, you want to be able to showcase that in your portfolio. And then, of course, how you present it. This is incredibly important, okay? And look, here's the thing you got to understand. If you are not good at texturing or lighting, then don't texture and light your models. Just keep it simple, right? Because you could have the greatest looking model. However, if you don't have just a nice clean lighting in order to present your models, then it's going to hold your models back. Here, I just have these 3D models of some vehicle seats that I've made, and I'm just showing these from different angles, nice still renders. I'm showcasing the topology, I'm showcasing the UV mapping. I'm not going in and creating super high realistic textures to showcase this. That's not what this is about, right? I'm just showcasing this as a nice, simple model. And then also, of course, I use this on my YouTube channel. You know, I have another one like with this Mandalorian helmet. It's just a nice, simple material, nice, simple 3-point lighting. If you're not exactly sure how to do that, I have a bunch of videos in Maya, rendering in Blender that show how to create these types of portfolios, pieces, and focus on that. So don't go through the process of creating like complex materials and textures if you just don't have that ability. There's nothing wrong with going through and showcasing the model. Like for my car model here, I didn't go through the process of doing materials and textures, and that's okay. I just did a nice clay with some ambient occlusion and some wireframes to showcase the specific modeling. You don't want to just present your models with just, hey, here is a still render. You want to show how you created the art. I would say that is nearly, if not more important than the artwork itself, right? So there's a bunch of examples here. There's Sahi here, who has a beautiful model that I showed up on ArtStation, and just amazing artwork, right? Just really good looking artwork, and it looked all of this crazy detail, and there's a lot of close-up shots, a lot of renders and everything. And this is, incredibly impressive work. And then you get into like the specifics. Now we're getting into the topology. Now we're getting into how this was created. We're looking at the sculpted detail here as well, because they're using 3ds Max, ZBrush, Substance Painter. So breakdowns of how all of this was created is incredibly helpful. You'll see this in some of Rakan's earlier artwork, where if I click on this cool switch 2.0, you can see there's a bunch of nice renders. It almost looks like product visualization, different lighting scenarios, different materials scenarios, the high poly, the low poly, turntables, and of course the wireframe that's showcasing exactly how this was created using a sub-D modeling workflow. So all of this, these are the types of things that studios want to be able to see, is how you break your artwork down and how you present it. Now, the thing that I like to bring up a lot is going to ArtStation is legitimately and admittedly, even for me, like some of this artwork, I mean, this is some of the best artwork that you'll see anywhere. You do not want to compare yourself to the front page of ArtStation, like without a doubt. A lot of times I come here, I just use this for inspiration. I look at here, I use it for motivation, but I don't do character stuff. I don't do a lot of character stuff, but you're going to see a lot of examples here. I look at some prop stuff, some vehicle stuff. So just a lot of fantastic art. But if you're currently like in the industry, like trying to get into the industry, I would definitely look at something like The Rookies. Okay. Now The Rookies is a fantastic site because essentially it's like a level playing field for people that are essentially rookies, like, first year entry level people looking to get into the industry. And I just happened to get to the front page, and let me just click on this piece of artwork here. Now this one is done by Miro 3D Art, and they kind of talk about, this is for photorealism module at SkyUp Academy. Okay, cool. So, they're kind of talking about what they're creating. So this is really cute stylized model using, Maya ZBrush, Substance Painter, and V-Ray. Cool. I use V-Ray quite a bit, so I always like when people are using that. But it's not only the final piece of artwork, right? So they're clearly showing that they're working on reference. They're clearly showing that they put together this awesome mood board. And here's a nice clean wireframe about modeling and topology, clay renders, and you have your wireframe, and then you can just kind of do this where you can kind of shade from wireframe to clay to textured, which is nice. And you'll notice that the backdrop is nice and simple. It's not distracting, nice clean lighting, and then a beautiful turntable with color correction and lighting, right? So this is just a fantastic way to showcase your model, and the model, looks great, and they're going through the entire process of the pipeline, right? So definitely something you can continue to scroll down, and there's a lot of different angles, close-ups and whatnot. So this is the type of work that I always like to take a look at and explain to people that want to get into the industry is don't only create the beautiful art, but you want to showcase and track your progress along the way and do a full-blown breakdown of that artwork. So nice simple renders, show the entire process, show that you have that understanding of as a 3D artist to be able to create these assets. Now, there's a few more tips here, is that 3D art is incredibly competitive. And I'm going to just be honest, the state of the VFX industry, animation, and gaming industry is in an incredibly tough position right now. Now, you'll notice at the beginning, I said that this is how to get employed in 3D art. I didn't say how to get employed in games or VFX or feature animations. It's just how to get in the industry. One of the best ways to get in the industry is to just get a job in 3D art that could be at enterprise companies like automotive, like product visualization, like marketing and advertising, to just get in the industry so you can show that you're working on 3D art within an actual company. Then you can work on getting into maybe your dream job scenario. So focus on that. And then while you are doing that, you really want to make sure that you're also building up technical skills. Everybody, like the majority of jobs are 3D art, right? I would say the majority of jobs people want are going to be 3D art. However, if you are able to have that solid understanding, that solid skill of 3D art, and also have a good understanding of rigging, have a good understanding of maybe Python scripting, understand maybe blueprinting inside of Unreal Engine, understand a little bit of coding, understand graphics programming, game optimization, right? These are all different aspects within the technical art pipeline, but showing that you maybe know 1, 2, or 3 of these things will give you an edge as a 3D artist. Now, I like to bring up this example here towards the bottom. So there's this talk here that shows this example of this chart, okay? And what she's going through and explaining is like the 3D artist really needs to know all of these things, right? To be able to take a 2D concept and create a 3D model, to create a 3D model that can deform properly with rigging and control objects, be able to put it in a game engine and run well and run optimized, right? To be able to deform properly for animators, right? All of that comes down to 3D art and the 3D artist. Of course, each of these people within the pipeline understands the 3D art process, but as a 3D artist, you're expected to really, really know all of these things. So you're essentially a funnel of information for the entire pipeline. So you want to showcase that you know that. You want to showcase that I can create models with clean topologies for deformation. I can create optimized models for a game engine that runs extremely well and looks extremely good. I can create and load animations within Unreal Engine. I can set up scripts. I can set up custom materials in Unreal Engine or Material and Substance Designer. I know how to do profiling. I know how to bring in assets and make sure that they aren't going to hog all of the hardware resources, right? So being able to showcase that is incredibly, incredibly powerful as a 3D artist. Of course, this one's pretty simple, is to use ArtStation. I would say without a doubt, it's the easiest way to get up and create a portfolio and start posting there regularly. And then making sure your work is accessible, right? These are some of the most important things when it comes to portfolio. And one thing that I should add in here as well, which it's kind of part of networking, but also applied here, is be visible. I've worked with students and I've done mentorships, and the first thing I ask is, can you send me your portfolio? And they're like, I don't have one, which sometimes is mind blowing to me. If you don't have one, then you don't exist online, right? So you want to be able to post your art and just start building an online presence. And just making sure that you're able to connect all of your socials, all of your information, like click on my portfolio. You'll see that I have all my socials here, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, all of that's here. You go to my about, I have an email, all of my information, all of my job. So it's just making sure that you have an online presence and people can find you. Here's something that always kind of, people don't really like to hear when they graduate, but after school or whatever program that you're coming out of, maybe you're doing self-taught learning, you finish a program or you bought a course, whatever you do, don't post tutorial work on your portfolio. The goal is to go through those learnings and then apply it to your own 3D artwork. A lot of times people think, I'm just gonna go through this tutorial, then post it on my portfolio, and then that will be my portfolio. It's pretty obvious and pretty easy to find that that you've gone through and built a portfolio based off tutorials, which you don't wanna do. That'll give you an incredible case of imposter syndrome, because now you won't have the confidence to be able to say, well, can I do this on my own? Do I have the ability to create these assets? That's why once you go through a course, spend time creating your own portfolio pieces and doing your own studies after that. That is far more impressive than going through the tutorial. And I'm talking about, I also speak from personal experience. When I kind of initially built mine, I just used a bunch of tutorial stuff and stuff in my course, and I found a mentor. I found somebody in the industry working in VFX at the time, and his name was Mark, and he was super helpful. And he gave me a lot of feedback that I then used to improve my portfolio. I said, okay, I'm going to take that time and spend 2 to 3 months creating my own kind of focused portfolio that I could use to apply to places. Again, that technical and artistic work. For example, I did this for Endless Engines for challenges and stuff. And not only do I have the full animation here, but I showed the entire process of how I broke this down inside of Unreal Engine, starting from creating the model myself, rigging it inside of Maya with the UAC, which is Ultimate Adjustable Car Rig, and then going through the animation process, and then creating and baking the animation, bringing it inside of Unreal Engine, setting up and then creating it environments using pre-made environment assets, and eventually just creating the full animation that was rendered in real time will output using Lumen and Unreal Engine. So not only did, I could have, and I see this where it's some people just keep this artwork here, but being able to show how you did this is, again, far more impressive. So let's keep going here, because that's the first and most important part. But I would say, this next one is again, equally, if not as important, is your network, right? Is how do you actually land the job? And it is building that network, okay? So most jobs are going to come from networking, right? I'm not saying you can't get a job cold applying, cold applications as we call it, but employees are more likely to hire somebody from a referral or a recommendation, okay? So for example, how do you build a network? I get that question a lot. How do you build a network, right? I have a Discord server completely free. You can join in the description and comments below. But not only mine, but there are a ton of other Discord communities, huge ones that have tens of thousands of people. Not only Discord, LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, art groups, and engage in competitions. Again, for example, I did this Endless Engine competition. And if you were to join the Discord that was set up here, which was ran by Clint, or known as Punisher, there was a huge active community. So being able to engage in competitions. I mean, the rookies also, if you go here, they have a lot of competition, so you can go to contests. And I wouldn't think about them as competitions, but you want to you think about them as contests. You know, we head over here to ArtStation, and they also have some contests here as well. So heading over here, you can see that there's a lot of challenges on ArtStation. And you guys, like the thing that you have to understand is like you're doing this to increase your visibility online. You're doing this so people know that you exist, right? And you build a network of people that are also doing this. You eventually become friends and you just build that wide network because that's how you increase your odds of getting jobs in the industry. Going to events as well. Like, depending on where you are, sometimes they have like local chapters like SIGGRAPH groups or GDC groups, game art groups, VFX, animation. These are places that you can go. Again, these are things that I did. I used to go to events, I used to go to fairs, I used to find other people that worked in industry because the way that I thought about it, I said, well, I have no idea where to look for a job. I'm going to go to these events because guess what? These are the people that have the jobs in the industry, and this is how I'm going to build my network. And that's exactly what happened. I went to an event. I was like teaching at the time. So I went and met with other instructors at an event. And I was like, well, if these other instructors are teaching 3D, more than likely they should have jobs. And guess what? Some of the instructors were working in industry, and I explained my situation and background was very similar to theirs. And I just kind of kept in contact with them. And eventually it was like, hey, we have some open roles. You want to apply? Or hey, we have open roles. Send me your resume, right? So they know you're actively looking, but you're not being like super pushy where you're like, oh, can you give me a job? Can you give me a job? It's just like, yeah, I'm looking to get in the industry, and you stay top of mind, right? That's how you build a network. That's how you can help other people as well. If you work in industry or you know other people, or maybe there's a role that you don't necessarily fit into, it's maybe more technical, it's like rigging. This is where you can help somebody else get the role through that network. They get the job, and then a 3D art position opens, so on and so forth. Again, it's this network that helps you and then helps other people. So, don't think about too much about like, what can they do for you? You want things to be mutual. You want to be able to help them, and a lot of times it's like, well, how can I do that? Right? Like, one thing I recommend is like, you go online, you find artworks, you follow professionals, you share their work, you like and comment on their work, and that stuff goes a long way. So just being social. I know like it's kind of like there's this trend, like everybody wants to be introverted and antisocial and stuff. And I mean, I'm speaking mainly as an introvert myself. Like, I would go to events early on and I wouldn't talk to nobody, right? I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would just sit in the corner, just like, "God, I can't wait for this to be over." But eventually, I mean, I heard this in a talk before. It was just like, I want this. I want a career. I want a job more than I want to be shy, right? It's easy to go home. It's easy to just sit on your computer and just work or play games. But if you really want a job, you have to get out there, and you want a career. You've got to get out of that comfort. Stop being shy. And believe me, at the beginning, it sucks, but it becomes far easier to be more comfortable talking to people. And then eventually it just becomes natural. And then learn from industry professionals, right? Like, again, not to show my own stuff, I have a YouTube channel, ArtStation, a mentorship program. Like, I'm doing all these things to kind of help people get in industry. And you can join those programs and those courses that I offer, as well as other people. There are other professionals that offer mentorships. Like, nowadays, like, you can work directly with people that are working in industry that could help give you those techniques. That wasn't really the case way back when I was applying to jobs, but now it's never been easier. So, I mean, that in itself, like, again, I'm not shilling my own stuff, but it's like getting a mentorship with an industry professional that's, I would say, been vetted, as in like you talk to other people that have been through it, the reviews are good, all that stuff, like, is far more beneficial than going through another tutorial or another course, right? You have to stay active, right? Because I've seen that where I've had people regularly come to me and say, hey, can you review my stuff? I'm trying to get in the industry. And their last update was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe 6 months even. If a recruiter sees that, like, I mean, straight up, that's a red flag for them because they're like, well, they're not really staying active and we don't want to have to waste time for them to dust off and hit the ground running. We want them to hit the ground running, right? So keep regularly updating your stuff in the sense that you're posting maybe once a quarter. You're posting maybe once every 3 to 4 months, right? Which is completely manageable. You know, I was doing that too. I was working a full-time job, 40 hours a week. But if you can at least carve off 1 to 2 hours a day, every couple of days, you know, that's 5-10 hours a week, like 40 hours a month, like that is completely manageable. I'm sure if you look at all of your game stats and stuff like that, and you can see those hundreds of hours, just carve off a little bit of time. Carve off a little bit of time from that to keep your portfolio active, okay? And keep working on those techniques and stay up to date, right? That's the big thing. And then again, being active in those communities, that will become easier to find a job because it's this whole like success. The success here is landing a job in the industry is preparation means opportunity, right? You're just making sure that you're constantly ready at any given time that somebody says, hey man, hey, or hey girl, like we have an opportunity. We have a job. You want to apply? I can refer you. I can blah, 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 right? But if you haven't touched Maya or Blender or Max for 8 months, right? Well, you're gonna just get completely nervous, right? Are you tired of buying tutorial after tutorial, hoping the next one's going to unlock your 3D modeling skills? Well, I'm here to get you out of that loop. I'm Anwar Mohammed, and I'm currently working as a 3D artist and technical artist at Epic Games. Let's talk about how to create panels for your 3D models. One thing that kind of excites me the most is like, letting the sub-D do the work. The distribution of edges is same throughout the entire model. And this is going to show you where you have these non-planar faces. This course isn't a one and done thing. I'm going to continue to evolve it with your feedback. So ready to finally take your skills to the next level? Enroll now and I'll see you there. So now you have a strong portfolio, you've been building up your network, you're staying active. Now, how do we actually apply effectively, right? So to really maximize your chances of getting hired, you have to research the company and industry that you want to get a job in. And you need to tailor your portfolio to that, essentially matching their style and connecting with recruiters. Like that's one of the big things. Recruiters' jobs is to fill those roles and jobs, right? So connect with them online, on ArtStation, on LinkedIn, and then make sure you reach out to them, right? So again, nothing groundbreaking here, right? But it's just making sure that you spend the time researching the company. Again, recapping, understanding their style. I wouldn't say that you need to customize your resume or portfolio to each application, but at least do it for each kind of industry, right? Like if I look here, like I already know what Overwatch is looking for, right? If I take a look at Riot Games or whatever and look at their style, right? Like I would kind of bundle like, you know, League of Legends, and maybe I take a look at Valorant. Like those are kind of all within the same bubble, right? Then if I look at something like, you know, Call of Duty and kind of seeing their hyper-realistic, more realistic type work, you know, of course there's like Fortnite, right? At Epic Games, where I'm at Epic Games, it's like there's all of these styles, right? So creating a few pieces that kind of go based off of this, right? You know, there's like Battlefield, like, well, one, there's like Naughty Dog. I love Naughty Dog, right? Last of Us and whatnot. So there's these hyper-realistic, there's stylized, there's, you know, indie style, there's AAA style. So, you know, kind of look within that. I mean, I do a lot of automotive stuff so of course there's like Forza. So I start to look at Forza and I see what they're looking for within their games. But like vehicle stuff, there's also like Rocket League, right? And like Psyonix and the team, I've been working with the team at Psyonix a bit, and you can kind of see like their style of vehicles. So maybe if I'm automotive, I'm hard surface, I'm vehicles, then I would start to take a look at creating a few pieces for, maybe Rocket League and Rocket Racing. And then I create a few for like Forza and Gran Turismo. So that way I can say, hey, I'm going to apply here with this part of my portfolio that's a little bit more stylized here that could fall within the kind of the Psionics, the Rocket Leagues. And then I'm going to create more realistic stuff that could be for Forza here. So you can see that there's some examples here, some Forza environment stuff, vehicle stuff, so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of what I mean by tailoring it more towards the industry and type of work, and then apply. Because again, the last thing you want to do is create either a hyper-realistic or a hyper-stylized character and then apply to a studio that's not stylized or hyper-realistic. And, some people have mixed feelings about LinkedIn, but LinkedIn are where the recruiters are at, right? And you want to, be able to effectively connect with those recruiters. So if we look at here, there's like resume and tips and stuff like that. Keep it short and relevant. If you're looking to get into the industry, no, you don't need to include your last 5 jobs on there if they don't apply to the industry. Just show that you were either going through a program and you were also working. It shows good time management. Definitely list your softwares, Maya, Blender, Unreal Engine, so on and so forth. And then highlight both artistic and technical. So not only can I create 3D assets, but I can create them extremely optimized, that are profiled, that can be rigged for animation or have been rigged for animation. So you understand those parts of the pipeline. And then, the usual, this is like the usual, like, people roll their eyes, but yeah, you want to emphasize that collaboration, problem solving, and adaptability, right? So you want to be able to explain that in your resume, because those are nice words that get like green flagged by whatever is like that screening tool, right? Because most of your resumes are going to be screened, right? So now let's go over here, for example. If I jump over to LinkedIn, let's just type in 3D artist and let's see what pops up. We can see that we have a few jobs here, and then I can hit jobs and kind of focus in on that. And we have a couple different jobs here. One being a lead 3D artist at Netflix game studio. So what I would do here is, again, for example, we're taking a look at what they are looking for. Now, this specific role, I believe, when I was looking at it, you can click on this link here and it'll kind of show you exactly the style that they're looking for. So it's like this night school studio within Netflix studios. And this is what they're trying to achieve. So I would look at the style and then use that to kind of cater. Like if, for example, you really, really wanted to work at like the game studios within Netflix or something. And you can see that they have kind of these lead roles. These are directors, producer roles and stuff like that. But the same thing applies, right? And then what I would do is like, I would go here to Netflix game studio recruiter. You can see I searched for it earlier, right? Netflix game studio, because that's who this is here, right? And instead of jobs, I want to search all and then start looking for people. And then now we can start to see, here are the people that are actually at Netflix as the recruiters at these animation studios, right? So you can see like these are the people that I would find, and you would apply to these roles, then reach out to the recruiter and say, hey, I already applied to this role, send them the role. That way you'll kind of come up and just maybe ask them, hey, do you have some time to talk about the role in a little bit more detail? So you're just kind of being cordial, you're being polite, you're saying, do you have a little bit of time, maybe 10, 15 minutes to talk about more about the role or how I could be a good fit for the role. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to screen you, they'll take a look and see if you're even remotely close to that role. And if you are, you'll get a call. And to be honest, that's showing that initiative to kind of go out, apply to these roles and being a lot more strategic. More often than not, I got a lot more hits using this technique than just blanket applying on LinkedIn. I would always, especially for the roles that I really, really wanted, I would reach out to the recruiters and then they would come back to me and I'd have a conversation with them and kind of lead and go. And this is something that I did early on, like to get these types of jobs, is like working through these recruiters, right? Again, they have the jobs that you want, right? So not only them, but also following these professionals, these people on LinkedIn, on their socials, I know when there's open recs at Epic Games, I post them, one, directly in my Discord server. Two, I'll post them and reshare them online. And a lot of times, these open jobs are jobs that they typically will work through kind of their in-network people. So they'll reach out internally on Teams and say, hey, we're about to post this job. Do you know anybody that would be good? By the time it hits like on like LinkedIn or whatever, and you start looking for these jobs, it has already had a bunch of people apply that are probably well within like the network of people that are posting these jobs. So definitely take a look, kind of see and cater your resume, your work, kind of see, like, here's one for senior character modeling artist. Like, you'd want to cater, this is a 6-month contract. This one's senior, so they're definitely looking for a lot of experience, but at least they're looking for ZBrush and Mudbox, Maya, cinematic, pre-rendered. So, and it says, extra points if you know Max, Blender, Wrap 3D, Marvelous Designer, Roadkill. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, us as 3D artists, I'm again going to be honest, we got to learn a lot. We have to know all these different types of tools. So most of us do know, I'd say know pretty much all these. I haven't used Wrap 3D, but I know, RISM. Yeah, I've used Roadkill. I know RISM's the new hot thing for UV mapping, but it's just like, go in, spend a little bit of time, get comfortable with it, and then include that on your portfolio, include that on your resume. So, this is how you can start building your resume and portfolio for that. This, I kind of just include the cover letter thing because some companies like require cover letters. I feel like they're outdated because at that point, I know it's just like, of course, I'm applying because it's either my dream job or I need a job or so on and so forth. But just do your best to showcase that enthusiasm. And then, spend time on where to find these jobs. Of course, I was just using LinkedIn. You can head to ArtStation. There's a job board here. But, as far as like the ArtStation goes, you're going to be going it's just a 3D art board, a 3D art site. So 2D and 3D art. So definitely take a look here. Take a look at some of these examples, post here, but I would do the same thing here, right? Visual effects artist, VFX artist, I'd go to, find out these studios and I would research, okay, here are these studios, here are these teams of people. I would go to LinkedIn, I would search for the recruiters and try to reach out to them. So that's kind of the game plan, right? And then of course there's actual recruiting agencies like Creative Circle, Aquent, 8-Bit, and connect with these recruiters and talk to them. My network on LinkedIn is like full of recruiters, and typically like if they see that I have some experience and they'll search for 3D art, Unreal Engine, Maya, Blender, blah, 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 you'll be kind of at the top because you've connected with them and you already have that relationship with them. So definitely, as we kind of wrap up, focus on quality versus quantity, right? So instead of blindly applying, right, focus on that quality, connect, and actually develop these relationships, because you're not going to get, everyone's like, I applied to 200 jobs and I've heard nothing, because you're being screened out of it. And there's probably something wrong with your resume. Honestly, this is like where ChatGPT and AI is really good. So use that to spruce up and put your resume together. And, follow also industry professionals, art leads, supervisors, because like I said, they're the people typically that will post the jobs first. So if they post a job first, you can stay ahead of these opportunities and not get to the point where you go to apply at a job and it's like 200 applicants already applied. It's like, by that point, still apply, but, definitely follow people, comment and share and stuff like that. How to ace the interview, right? So once you get to the interview, right? So you've applied, you've interviewed with recruiters. Now the leads want to talk to you, or whoever wants to talk to you. They already assume, like, if you've made it that far, they pretty much know that you have the skills, right? Some places, depending on how green you are, will offer an art test, okay? They just want to make sure at this point that you're a good fit, okay? And it kind of sucks, right? Because now it's like, oh man, everything is good. I got all the technical skills. I got the 3D art skills, and now I got to make sure they like me, right? It's tough, right? Because now you're nervous, right? But what helps with that nervousness is being able to just practice, okay? It's because you want to go in there excited to meet them, show enthusiasm, show that you've prepared, and just show them that you would just, be happy to work. You would enjoy the job, right? Just that enthusiasm and that willingness to learn. So don't come off as a know-it-all, arrogant, and stuff like that. And you're like, well, yeah, of course. But man, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've been interviewed by a lot of people, and you'd be surprised. I've seen some people kind of come in either just absolutely a wreck, like too nervous, or people that were just felt like, like here's a story time. Okay, story time. I was interviewing a person for a role. I won't go over the company or role or anything. And they had all the skills and everything on their portfolio. So they came in, we're like, yeah, let's interview them. Awesome. It was a bit of a technical role. So we were asking, hey, can you explain a little bit about your approach to such and such on this movie or this game? And they came back with, it's on my portfolio. And it's like, cool, we see that, but could you give us, how would you create a similar effect that does so and so? And it wasn't like an art test. It was just, how did they go about it? Did they talk about using, custom material graphs, post-process effects? Did they use procedural stuff? Did they use texture? We're just getting a sense of kind of their thought process. But it was very like arrogant and just like, oh, you can take a look. I've worked on the most popular games and most popular movies. And it's like, yeah, cool story, bro, gal. Okay, yeah, thanks for your time. And guess what? I mean, when you come off that arrogant, like you need to be likable. Like nobody's gonna like a person like that, speaking from experience, right? So just being chill, just being, pretty cool person. So, and spend time, right? And now kind of coming back is just, you'd be surprised how this one trips people up. Tell us about yourself. Okay. If you've never actually answered that question, it's pretty nerve-wracking to do that. Here's what I suggest. Use ChatGPT. Collect a bunch of these art roles, right? Find all of these roles and say, these are what all of these 3D art roles are looking for. Put them into ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, you're a 3D art lead or recruiter that is looking to fill this job. Ask me a bunch of questions, behavioral questions, so on and so forth, and help me prepare for this interview. I have actually done this recently, and my God, it works extremely well. It just helps you, they're obviously not going to answer the exact or ask the exact same question, but it just helps you stay on your toes. It helps you be comfortable because, most of the time it's like, they just want to ask you, tell us about yourself, tell us a little bit of technical stuff. A lot of times it'll be, how do you handle feedback? It'll be these behavioral questions. Tell us about a time that X, Y, and Z happened. How did you handle it, right? And nobody really likes those questions, but it's not so much like what exactly happened. It's just how would you handle the situation? And really the big thing is just communication, right? For example, if somebody asked me how I would handle, I had two producers come to me and both of them asked me for something by end of day or by the end of week and it's already midweek. How did you handle that situation? Well, I would essentially grab both producers, put them in a room with me and say, both of you want something and I can only get one thing done at a time. We can either get help to finish this or one of you can deprioritize your request, right? So that's just kind of an example of just like, here's a problem, here's a solution, right? And that's essentially what people really want to hear during these interviews is, is there a problem? Can you propose solutions? And can you handle dealing and working with people? So the technology is evolving fast. Be sure to use ChatGPT AI to put together a clean resume. It'll help you prepare for interviews. Many places offer career services that you can kind of go in, like local career services and practice, or just get a friend. The funniest thing is getting a friend that has no idea about 3D art and having them ask you the questions just so you get used to kind of answering them. But man, you really want to make sure that you stay calm. And the way to do that is just being prepared and practicing for interviews. Ask questions. I just ask more questions, but ask questions. Just, ask them, what's considered being successful in this role, right? And these open-ended questions. So now you're kind of sending it back to them, right? Is there a route for career advancement? What's a typical day like in X, Y, and Z role? How do you guys handle, late changes and tight deadlines, right? You ask them, what's your favorite part of working at XYZ studio? So this is your chance to learn. Again, it shows that interest. I know a lot of times you get through that interview and you just want to be done. They ask you if you got questions and you say, no, I'm good. But doing that shows that you care. Doing that shows you come prepared. And those are all good things during an interview. Now, definitely you want to be adaptable. They want problem solvers, and then using AI to prepare. So really just the final tips is just as you're working, be persistent, don't give up. Success is preparation meeting opportunity. So you just want to always be ready and you always want to be confident. So that's just being persistent. And I know it's tough, so let's just play the long game. Don't burn yourself out doing 4 to 6 hour work days of just like, doing something in 3D art, and then you get burnt out and then you just want to stop essentially. And you stop from one day to a week to a month, and then all of a sudden it's years, right? So you have to just be consistent, right? And that's where that 1 to 2 hours a day or every couple of days, just making sure to spend 4 to 5 hours on something. And then you'll have days and weeks that, you do a lot more. You'll have days and weeks where you do a lot less. But consistency is what matters here. And so that'll allow you to stay up to date. That'll allow you to keep applying. That'll allow you to grow your network, be active. People know you exist, and just continue learning, right? That's like my favorite part, is just straight up just being able to just learn new things. And then if I were to kind of put all of this, in this little formula here, I would say that your portfolio definitely over your resume is the most important thing versus whatever credentials that you have. Showing your best work, constantly networking, building those relationships, right? Because again, you want to be top of mind. When an opportunity comes, you want to be able to be at top of mind with somebody, because you post regularly on social media, you socialize and comment and share people's posts, you go to events, you're in Discord servers, and not to the point where you feel like you have to do that as a part-time job, but it's just, you're just there. You're just top of mind. And then just having a clean and professional, organized portfolio. So making sure that you have an ArtStation, LinkedIn, and when you're applying to that kind of clean and customized role. And I have a bunch of these examples here of just kind of the portfolios that I've been kind of showing throughout the video that are really good examples. One of my favorites is my good friend Bryce here. I mean, he does such a fantastic job like showcasing. So he's a game art instructor. He's worked in industry, and now he teaches, and he's just a fantastic resource. He got a great YouTube channel too, so be sure to check him out. And you can see all of these different lighting scenarios, these different lighting effects. And then you get down to here. Here's what I was talking about, right? You got these beautiful clay renders, these beautiful PBR workflow, these UVs, these texture sets, poly counts, rigs, right? So now all of this is kind of coming in, showcasing the mood board, showcasing going from 2D to 3D, right? Having a full-on Marmoset viewer that anybody can look at this full-on beautiful real-time model, right? Like it's all there. Like if somebody's looking for a 3D artist, like this portfolio, this example, this exemplifies it, right? Another one too, talked to him quite a bit in the Discord, becoming a good friend of mine, Aaron here. He came out of school and he went right into a lot of these big name studios, and he's working on World of Warcraft, and here was kind of an example of this piece that he worked on that helped him get a job. And it just kind of shows the before, the after. Again, you have this Marmoset viewer that showed this real-time model, the hand painted, the effect here. And then I love this here, that it kind of shows the overall progression of how his thought process, right? This is the stuff that I'm talking about. It's showing the breakdown, showing how you created it, showing the progression, right? Showing, he went down one direction for lighting scenario and then changed and went to another. And this really, really helps from even a talking point, right? So during interviews, like those are big things, and this is what people like to see. So again, just more of these examples really cool samples. I mean, you'll see. I found this environment. I know I show a lot of character stuff, but some beautiful stuff by John Tiadic here. He posted recently. I love kind of this example because not only did he create this beautiful environment, you're able to walk through it, and if you're an environment artist, now you're showcasing kind of the assets that you created and the using the modular kits, whether it was created by you or put together, just showing again the thought process. This wasn't something like this right here. This is like my favorite shot. I teach Unreal Engine, I teach environment design, and I always have students create like this fixed camera at the beginning and then create their environment based off of that, so they can create essentially these progress shots here. So beautiful, beautiful stuff, and again, there's a lot of examples. I'll probably add more to this, but I think that's enough. I think I've just hit over, yeah, I just hit about an hour. So we'll see if this will be trimmed down for YouTube, but regardless, I'll be posting the whole thing on my course in Patreon, so you can get access there. And if you're interested and you would like to sign up for a mentorship with me, be sure to check that out down below. You can check that out on my website or join my Patreon. My Discord's completely free and open, so you still have access to me and other artists as well. But I think that's enough for today. This is a long one. I really enjoyed it, and I've given this talk a lot, but I just wanted to get it cleaned up, posted here for YouTube. So thanks for your time. Hopefully you made it all the way through. And if so, thanks. I'll see you around.